Hey, how you doing? This is Adam Post, publisher of more than 1,000 comic books. Well, today we're talking about the panic over at Disney because of Avatar 2, The Way of Water. This is a very expensive movie, and there's been a lot of discussion about, well, you know what? They are actually planning to make multiple sequels. James Cameron was given $1 billion to budget 4 sequels, and there's development on multiple sequels. That's true. In fact, James Cameron has already finished Avatar 3. It's 9 hours. And he's now asked for all the effects to be done, all the visual effects, which is going to be expensive, so that he can then go and make his final cut of the movie, which will be God knows how long, because Avatar 2 is 3 hours and 12 minutes. Now, I understand that James Cameron is an incredible legend. He did Titanic, of course, Terminator. He did Avatar, which was the highest grossing movie of all time. You know, he's a superstar. But at some point, Bob Iger needed to kind of sit down with him and say, listen, I have to have some kind of reins on this. I can't just write unlimited billion-dollar checks to you and unlimited amounts of screen time so that you could just do any kind of project that you would love to do. Let's live within certain constraints, but make something amazing. Cameron's a reasonable enough guy. He talks about profitability. He talks about break-even. He talks about that very openly in different interviews that he does. So Cameron understands, it's a business that he's in. He completely understands it. At the same time, he's a creative nut and he wants to do what he wants to do. And creators are like that. You want people to be nuts. You want them to be geniuses and produce incredible things. But you can't expect those very same people are going to be taking care of things like runtime, taking care of things like marketing expense and production budget expense. The Avatar 2 budget is not publicly reported. It's not. It's been estimated anywhere from $250 million to as high as $400 and $450 million. I'm not talking about marketing. I'm talking about the production budget of blank screen, finished movie. Anywhere from $250 to $450 million. Variety, the better movie industry publications, seem to put it at the higher end of $400 million. But again, could be as high as $450 million. Some of that expense could be considered sunk expense, like technology expense, because you need to have certain technology to do additional shoots. They're going to certainly repurpose some of the technology that they got from Avatar 2 when they go ahead and make Avatar 3, which apparently is going to be made. Regardless of how this movie does, Avatar 2, Avatar 3 is going to come out because the thing has been made. But it's not been made as part of the budget for Avatar 2. So the thing to understand is, of course you want to make movies with James Cameron. Who wouldn't want to make a movie with James Cameron? But there has to be some kind of understanding listen, no, you can't do a 3 hour and 12 minute runtime. It's too long for people to see the movie twice. So even if you love the movie, you can't see it twice. You want to do a separate extended showing where, okay, we're going to do a whole second release. This is the director's cut, whatever. Take it from 2 hours to 3 hours and 12 minutes. Fine. You want to sell it on a DVD as a special edition or a special digital version of it, whatever. Also fine. 3 hours and 12 minutes is too long. And I'm going to tell you this. You will see in future movies that they do not allow runtimes that exceed 2 hours, 30 minutes, absolute maximum. But everything should really be 2 hours or less. Storytelling does not need to happen, in some decompressed format. Not every movie has to be incredibly long. It's a tremendous burden on the viewers. It's a tremendous burden on your comprehension of understanding and enjoying the thing. And it's a tremendous burden on the movie theater channel that has to try to give you the billions of dollars that you need to cover expenses. The movie theaters can't have as many showings when it's 3 hours and 12 minutes as they can when it's 2 hours or even 2.5 hours. Now, I predicted this about Black Panther Wakanda Forever. A lot of other people predicted it too. I'm not saying I know everything. I just, it became apparent that Black Panther Wakanda Forever was not going to hit $1 billion. And this is a concern for Disney because the first Black Panther did $1.38 billion. The second one, perhaps because, he wasn't even in the second one. The second one with a longer runtime, that one was 2 hours, 40 minutes, the second one. It did what? It's going to do at best it might do $800 million. It probably won't get there. It's going to be $500 million less box office. Now, they lost some money because China didn't carry it. We can make whatever excuses we want. The Ukraine box office, which was like $2 million, doesn't count. Russia was like 20 million roughly for Black Panther 1. But you add all these things up, it's making a tremendous amount of less money because the movie's too damn long and because they decided Black Panther didn't really need to be in his own sequel. But take Avatar 2. Is Avatar 2 something like that? No. Avatar 2, the main characters, God knows what their names are, Navi, whatever. The characters are in it. They didn't take the characters out of the sequel. It's essentially the same movie as Avatar 1. The story continues. There'll be some additional visual effects that you weren't expecting. And as James Cameron says, he says that it's a feminist movie because they show pregnant women fighting in battle. Okay, that's going to make additional money for them somehow. I don't know. I don't know how that could. But this is Iger's fault. Iger's obviously the one that made the deal with James Cameron. He had no limitations on James Cameron. There was no limitations on the runtime of the movie. This movie, 2 hours maximum. That's it. Spend whatever you want to spend, but keep it within 2 hours so we can recoup the money. Here's an article from Cosmic Book News talking about some more specific numbers, because the numbers are coming in now. And the numbers that are coming in are roughly in range between Black Panther Wakanda Forever and Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. Multiverse of Madness did $950 million. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Did not have anywhere near the same budget as Avatar 2 did, which was truly astronomical. If it wasn't $450 million, it was probably $400 million. In addition to, I'm looking for the marketing budget. I can't find it. I only found it on one website. And I don't even want to say what it is because it's absurdly high. As much as the production budget. And keep in mind, they're expecting a big international market for Avatar 2, just like they had for Avatar 1. China did sign on and say yes. But China can't financially save this film. It cannot. China can do $250 million on Avatar 2 if they feel like it. But remember, you only get 25% of the box office from China. Even if China did $300 million just in China on Avatar 2, which likely will not happen. But let's say it did happen. That's only $75 million. It's not like you get half of that money. It doesn't solve the problem. This movie is going to underperform the same way that Black Panther Wakanda Forever underperformed. Will it break $1 billion worldwide with China's help? It seems like if you look at the numbers, they're doing about as much business as Black Panther Wakanda Forever was doing. I mean, we'll go into this article now, and Cosmic Book News, they cover some great numbers. We can talk about some of the numbers. But I'm not expecting, if it does $1 billion, it'll do $1 billion. It's not going to do the $2 billion that James Cameron said it would need to break even and be seen as a success. And by all means, they will sell this movie into other places. There's streaming service. There's going to be physical media like DVDs and Blu-ray. They're going to be ancillary markets, free TV, pay TV. So they're going to generate additional money on this. Ultimately, it will probably break even. But what a ridiculous way to spend $1 billion to make a film and then be dealt into several other films like this where it's not a merchandising hit, it's not going to launch a universe, it doesn't leverage any other library except for one other Avatar movie. Because keep in mind, if you do Doctor Strange and you've got the Scarlet Witches in that movie, great. And Doctor Strange was in a movie with Spider-Man recently, it leverages the entire Marvel catalog and it keeps interest in the entire Marvel brand. So if you're going to spend more money like this, it should be on something where you've got more investment and more intellectual property. Do you know how much money they spent on the recent Minions movie? The recent Minions movie did like over $900 million. There was $930 million worldwide. You know what the budget was for that? $80 million. Incredible. And a hell of a good movie. You ought to watch that most recent Rise of Gru. Really well done movie, of course, done by Universal because they're focused on making movies, not focused on making social change to turn us all into woke robots. Okay, let's get into this article. Before we do, please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up. You guys have been great. The channel is growing, and I do really sincerely appreciate you. Okay, Avatar 2, bombing with Friday box office. So we go into this article here. So basically, the numbers aren't coming in at the estimates. They're coming in under estimate. And Avatar 1 had a tremendous quality where when it first came out, it only did $77 million in the first weekend, which wasn't bad. It was good for the time, but it hung in and it stayed in theaters forever and made a ton of money international. This movie is definitely going to do more money than it did with Avatar 1's opening weekend, but it's a different time, it's a different expectation, and there's a different cycle time expected for the movie theater to be earning money in theaters. You got another Black Panther Wakanda Forever on your hands with this one. This one might do $1 billion with China, but it's not going to make the money it should be making. So Matt says here, all I can do is start off with A big wow, even he's shocked that Avatar 2 is completely bombing at the box office with its Friday numbers, estimated to be a complete disaster, which means the weekend will also be a colossal failure. Now, it's a little overstated, maybe, but it's well below projections because the trades like Variety, Deadline.com were hoping that Avatar 2 would open as high as $200 million domestically or more, with the low estimates at $175 million, but the numbers aren't hitting that way. The numbers are probably going to be anywhere from 120 to 150 million for domestic box office. We'll know soon enough. This is after James Cameron has let it be known that Avatar: The Way of Water needs to hit $2 billion to break even. And, look, we don't have a published promotional budget. They haven't published an official production budget. It's hard to say, but there is absolutely no reason for James Cameron to come out publicly and make a statement like, we need to hit $2 billion to hit my number where we need to be theatrically. We have to hit that number. There's no reason for him to say that if it's not accurate. And it does seem accurate. Hollywood trades were offering this movie was going to open sky high. Matt had reported Avatar 2 is actually tracking less than the $181 million box office of Marvel's Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. So without spin, Wakanda Forever would be lucky to hit $800 million. We have it here right now. Wakanda Forever is at $774 million. It's not adding a lot of money to that. It probably will not hit $800 million. Deadline actually spins things for the low box office so far for Avatar: The Way of Water that audiences are waiting to secure ideal seats in a premium format instead of going to see the movie this weekend. A movie that's over 3 hours long. The accusation, the suggestion here from Deadline, industry publication, Deadline.com, the spin is like, well, people aren't really so psyched to see it because they want to see it like in special 3D format. They want to make sure they get a good seat and they know it's opening weekend, so they're not going to bother going this weekend. That's a little on the ridiculous side. I'm sure there are some people like that, but obviously it's got to be the minority of the percentage of people. Jeff Schneider also said Cameron recently turned in a cut of Avatar 3, which is 9 hours long, and that Cameron wants all the effects done before he makes his final cut. I don't blame him for wanting to get all the effects done. The problem with getting all the effects done is that's expensive. That's a 9 hour. I mean, is there anyone, Bob Iger, it's not Chapek anymore. Things have changed. Bob Iger needs to go. Bob, you need to go talk to James Cameron and explain to him, look, we have to keep things under a certain level of control. Bob, you cannot just let people do whatever they want because things fall apart that way. Because the creative doesn't think of the business side. They just think of the creative side. It's a different part of the brain. There's not one that's better than the other. They have to work hand in hand. Very bad mismanagement by Bob Iger. Avatar 2 Friday box office is only $55 million. Regarding the Friday box office, which included $17 million from Thursday, Avatar 2 was estimated to bring in only $55 million, and the update for that was that it was actually only $53 million. The $2 billion that Star Wars The Force Awakens did is the number that Avatar 2 needs to make to break even and have it be considered a success. There's different things about breaking even. So if you're going to break even theatrically, that's breaking even at movie theaters, which means you made the movie, you promoted the heck out of it, people came, they saw it, you got enough money back from what they call rentals. That's the revenue that comes from theaters. When you have it out theatrically, they call that rentals. You get the money back. You cover all your production costs, all your budget costs. Then everything else is profit and gravy. That's what James Cameron's talking about. But he's not going to get it. This movie is not doing $2 billion international. I could be wrong, and that's fine. But Avatar 2 can barely scratch those numbers in 2 days, and it's going to make $2 billion. It's not. It's not going to hit the numbers because Star Wars The Force Awakens made $119 million for its first Friday, and Spider-Man No Way Home brought in a massive $121.9 million also on its first Friday. Avatar did $53 million. Do you think, let me know what you think in the comments below. If Star Wars The Force Awakens made $119 million and Spider-Man No Way Home did $121.9 million on their first Fridays, how is this movie that did $53 million going to do $2 billion? It's not. So you'll get $900 million probably out of Avatar 2, which will mean it will break even through ancillary markets, probably, because Disney controls those ancillary markets, so they can say, hey, it broke even, don't worry. Meaning they can decide how much they want to pay from the streaming service to the production budget of Avatar for the rights for streaming. They control that. They control a lot of the other places that the movie will be sold, so they can kind of control the numbers and say, yeah, well, it just sort of broke even. And you will see an Avatar 3, but don't expect to see an Avatar 4 or 5 at this point. James Cameron will need an Avatar 2 Christmas miracle just to break even, and it can't compete with Marvel. Similar to the Thursday box office, Avatar 2 can't compete on Friday with the 3 Marvel movies released this year. Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness at $90 million, Thor Love and Thunder at $69.5 million, and Black Panther Wakanda Forever at $84.2 million. $84.2 million for Wakanda Forever. I mean, how are you going to get to their numbers this way? How are you going to do it? I don't know. Avatar 2's Friday box office is more in line with The Batman, which did $56.6 million, which opened to $134 million for the weekend, and finished worldwide with a box office of $770 million. Right in that Black Panther Wakanda Forever zone. That's what's coming. The Way of Water Thursday's box office is also in line with Marvel's Guardian of the Galaxy 2, opened with a Friday box office of $56 million and a weekend box office of $146 million. Comparing the sequel to the first movie is pointless, and these are different times, and the sequel is nothing new. But the first Avatar in 2009 only brought in $26.6 million and opened to only $77 million for the weekend, and went on to bring in a huge $2.743 billion worldwide. So the sequel is not going to make the number it needs to make. Bob Iger knows this. He has great people working for him at this point. I'm not talking about Kevin Feige. I'm talking about like finance people, marketing people. There are some serious professionals running around Disney still. They know they're not hitting their numbers. They're worried about it. They'll figure out how to break even on this movie Avatar 2. Not theatrically. It's not going to happen theatrically. But it'll happen through the ancillary markets, meaning streaming, DVDs, digital downloads, other TV and international markets. They'll get their money back, basically, but this is not going to bail out Disney. Disney has tremendous problems, and this is really not helping them. It's another problem they have to manage. This they can manage. This is not putting them out of business. It'll be a little embarrassing. It won't be a disaster. They have other things that will be a disaster next year when they have to explain that they have been overvaluing their library of Disney Plus shows and movies dramatically. That's my prediction, but you look for it. Let me know what you think of all this in the comments below. Do you think Avatar 2 is going to break $2 billion and be breaking even? I don't think so. Not theatrically. Do you agree with me that probably they'll think a way that'll figure out like it will at least break even? They'll get their money back through multiple places, or maybe you think they're going to take a huge loss on this. I don't know. Let me know what you think. Please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you again soon with another video. And if I don't see you, I will miss you.